You know, I was gonna sit down and do this video with my snake on my neck, just because I always have her out. She's become like an accessory to me. And, well, she's very large and heavy, and doing a full-on video with her wrapped around my neck trying to speak probably isn't going to be the easiest thing to do. So I think I'm just gonna go ahead and take my snake off of my neck. Her name is Noodle, by the way. I'm sure some people are going to ask. Take my snake off my neck, and I'll put her away. I bet a lot of people are going to go into the comments and tell me, hey, a snake is just, looking to destroy and devour you, so you shouldn't give it any love. And to those people, I'm going to say, you love your wife and girlfriend, right? I'm basically doing the same thing. Don't tell my girlfriend I said that. Our couch is uncomfortable. Let me go put her back and we'll dive into this video. Okay, where was I? This right here is a cartridge that I have gotten a ton of requests for this video series. What I'm doing, I'm going through a bunch of different cartridges that I have, and we're talking about whether or not they would make good hunting cartridges. So I'm doing this in an effort to try and earn my way up to 100,000 subscribers. So if you want to help me get to that point, then subscribe to the channel. I got like 95% of you guys that are not subscribed. If I could just get like a few more percentages of you, like even just 5% more of you guys subscribing, that should double my subscription count, which would absolutely help me right along my way to reach that 100,000 subscriber point. So this right here is a cartridge that I have gotten a tremendous amount of requests for, like more than other cartridges that I've done. This right here is our 7.5 Swiss, as I'm sure you guys can tell from the what would you call it? Not the description, the title of the video. As you guys can tell from the title of the video, this is not exactly a secretive cartridge I'm trying to build up to. 7.5 Swiss. This right is a military cartridge that came out in 1911. We're not going to go into the history behind the 7.5 Swiss or the rifles that shot it, or why it exists, and the semi-smokeless powder round that came before it, and the whole line of rifle designs. We're just going to give you a very quick, brief rundown. 7.5 Swiss is typically fired from a straight pull bolt action system like this right here. This is a Swiss K31. I've shown this off on the channel already, but I'm still yet to take this out to a range. If you want to help me get out to a range, then I got links to Patreon and Utreon below. You can go buy yourself a t-shirt, or you can do a one-time donation through the t-shirt page. So all that will help me get to a range so I can actually test out this K31 and see how effective it actually is. People were telling me to look inside of the butt plate of this thing. I did. There was a piece of paper back there. Alright, so let's look at the cartridge of 7.5 by 55 Swiss. This right here is our 7.5 by 55. This is GP11 ammunition. And I'm going to hold it right beside 30-06 so you can kind of see the similarities between the cartridges in terms of size. In terms of capabilities, I would say 7.5 Swiss is very on par with 308 or 7.62 NATO. As a matter of fact, I call it more on par with 7.62 NATO. Just because of 308 having a bunch of different capabilities, simply because of it being a commercial cartridge. So, 7.5 Swiss came out in 1911. It is a military cartridge. The GP11 round, which is what I have right here, this right here is a 174 grain projectile, and out of a K31 carbine, it should be traveling at just over 2,500 feet per second. It'll have about 2,500 or so foot-pounds of energy on the target. As a general rule, it's more or less agreed upon that you want about 1,000 foot-pounds of energy to be able to take out a deer, although you could do it with significantly less with proper shot placement, but just as a general rule, that's kind of what people lean into, wanting that 1,000 foot-pounds of energy onto its target, and obviously this has 2.5 times that at 2,500 foot-pounds of energy on target. So yeah, the GP11 round is definitely enough to take out a deer. Issue is, it's a full metal jacket round, and there's a lot of places where you can only hunt using expanding ammunition. You can't use full metal jackets. Now, that being said, there's plenty of commercial loadings in 7.5 Swiss that do in fact use soft point hunting ammunition, so you can go hunting with it. So let's take a look at some of those. This right here is what really strikes me as similar to the 7.62 NATO or 308 cartridge. The 7.5 Swiss will send a 150 grain projectile at approximately 2,850 or so feet per second, which is basically right at the point where 308 is sending its 150 grain projectiles. As a matter of fact, the 7.5 Swiss is actually a 308 diameter projectile. Some people tell me 306, but every single rifle I've gauged out has come out to a 308 diameter. So it's a 308 diameter projectile. And it's literally the same projectiles that you're going to fire out of your 308, and it seems to be the same exact velocities as well. Now, we already talked about the GP11, that 174 grain projectiles. I did find a loading for 180 grain commercial loads, but that's very, very similar to the GP11, so I didn't even bother writing that one down. However, if we bump it up to a little bit heavier of a projectile, we got a 200 grain projectile. This seems to be the best option out of everything I find, that 200 grain projectile, if we're looking to get the most bang for our buck. So we only lose 100 feet of velocity, 100 feet per second of velocity, going from an 80 grain projectile to a 200 grain projectile. So we got quite a bit more weight and not a whole lot of velocity loss. We're looking at a 200 grain projectile traveling at about 2,400 or so feet per second. That's a heavy bullet traveling very, very fast. That's going to generate about 2,700 or so foot-pounds of energy onto its target. That's quite a bit. That's quite a bit, especially with that heavy projectile. I would probably use the heavier projectiles for going after a larger game. I know here in the state of Florida, the deer only get to be like 150 pounds, and I actually undercharge my 308 that I go hunting with. This way, whenever I hit my deer, I don't like completely destroy it because a 150 grain 308 that's traveling at about 2,800 or so feet per second, that does a number on the little deer that we have around here. And forget about it whenever it comes to pig and whatnot. Yeah, the pig around here are like this big, and they get to be like 60 to maybe 100 pounds. So yeah, a full power 308 is not what you want. I actually undercharge mine a little bit for, like, it's more on par with something like 30-30. It travels more like 2,200 or so feet per second. And, well, 7.5 Swiss would be kind of an overkill here in the state of Florida, but there's plenty of places out there where you would be going after much larger game. That 7.5 Swiss would be way adequate for. 7.5 Swiss with that 200 grain projectile, especially if you're rocking a solid projectile that can get deep penetration. 2,700 foot-pounds of energy onto its target is nothing to scoff at. Now, granted, it's not exactly a Magnum cartridge, but considering it came out in 1911, that's pretty revolutionary for the time period. It's mimicking the 308 round, which is a round that NATO is still using to this day in terms of ballistic capabilities. However, if we look at a Magnum cartridge, like, actually I got 300 Weatherby Magnum right here, that will send a 150 grain projectile, so it's the same projectile, at 3,550 feet per second. That's a lot faster. That's 4,200 foot-pounds of energy onto its target. So the 7.5 Swiss is not a powerhouse of a cartridge, but at the same time, it's not exactly lightweight. As a matter of fact, 7.5 Swiss is on par with military M2 ball 30-06 whenever it comes to bullet weight and velocity. It's still going to send that 150 grain projectile about 2,800 or so feet per second. So, yeah, I absolutely would recommend using 7.5 Swiss for hunting purposes, especially if you are comfortable with the powers and capabilities that 308 Winchester has to offer. Not only that, but the rifles that this cartridge tends to get shot out of, these are regarded as some of the nicest, finest bolt-action rifles in the world. They're considered to be some of the most accurate bolt-action rifles in the world. As a matter of fact, I think that a K11 holds the world record for long-range shot with iron sights at 2,200 and some change yards. So I got no idea how many feet that is, but I think that's going to be like over a mile, like almost a mile and a half. As a matter of fact, I'll look that up right now. So yeah, that's over a mile away by almost 1,000 feet. That is an insane distance with a bolt-action rifle. That is nuts. That was 6,700 or so feet away. So yeah, that's over a mile away with this style of rifle right here. And this particular ammunition. So it is incredibly capable and incredibly accurate, very much on par with a lot of the modern stuff that we see nowadays. It was definitely revolutionary for the time period. that it came out in. As a matter of fact, I never bore tested this thing. Oh yeah, the bore seems to be fine. These rifles seem to be a-okay whenever it comes to condition and whatnot. Anyway, folks, thanks for watching. I think that I've pretty much said all that I can say about the 7.5 Swiss. I don't have much else to add, so I'm just going to do the outro. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share. The description below has a link to all sorts of stuff. Go check it out. You guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day. Hopefully this scratched the itch that a lot of people had whenever it came to the 7.5 Swiss. I've gotten a bunch of different requests on a bunch of different cartridges, and I am going to try and make videos talking about all those cartridges and the ballistic capabilities of every single one of them. Some of them are very hard to find, to the point to where I don't own them myself, and others are well, as popular as, like, say, 30-06. I don't know how many people have told me to do 30-06, despite the fact it's one of the first cartridges I've done. Thanks for watching, folks. I will see you guys on the next episode.
Been a little while since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. The poor man's Garen. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.